Hey everybody, here at the Ted Cruz rally. You can see the buses in the distance. It's a nice day. Kind of wondering if I was going to get here in time. I'm working on the haunted house at the Hosa Haunted House, which is going to be amazing. Here I am. Hi, it's me. See? There they are. There we go. Oh, I'll need to go back in. I parked way back there. Isn't that a pretty sunset? That's pretty. Anyways, there they are. That's cool. I've got my ticket. Again, nice sunset. I'm not going to get any merchandise, but let's see what they got.
How we doing?
Very nice, very nice.
But I'm not positive. Okay. Let me see if I got a little. Do you have an empty bottle out here?
Oh man, you don't have to go through that much.
Oh, look at that.
I do in the car.
But if you don't, let me know. My van's over here.
That's
I didn't know
cute.
if I could come in with one. I didn't want to be that guy.
I'd probably check. Yeah, you absolutely can.
Okay, awesome.
Man,
Appreciate it.
it's a Republican rally.
That was
You're absolutely.
That's what I was about to say.
Very nice, very nice. Minion one's cute.
Tonight? Oh yeah. I was hoping there would be some excitement out here. We're going to stand up and we're going to open in prayer. And I just want to make sure I'm in the right crowd. Now, I've already voted. How many of you already voted? Now, how many of you voted right? All right. Well, let's pray. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rippling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? And Lieutenant Sergeant Wayne Landis to lead us in the pledge.
Y'all would follow after me. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Justice for all.
honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Miss Leila McClellan.
Good evening, good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Lyle Lane McClellan, and I'm one of the original founders of the San Angelo Tea Party and currently have the honor of serving as its president. Thank you, thank you. First, let me say that I want to thank Cruz GOP.
In this section, we've got 3 sections. That's pretty good. Because I'm going to tell you a story. It's not the frogs, guys. It's not the frogs. If you want to check the validity of this story, you can look in 1 Samuel chapter 14. I think it's 14. If you'll read all of 1 Samuel, run into it, I promise you. There's a story that the Israelites are all, they're under a great deal of stress because the Philistines have taken them over. And they've taken all of their plows, all of their hoes, all of their swords, anything could be used as a weapon, and they pounded it down towards nothing. And there's one boy named, what is his name? Anyway, his father is Saul. And Saul is over. Who is that boy?
Jonathan.
Jonathan, there you go. Right. He's the preacher. Saul is over in a camp. He's hidden in a cave along with everybody, everybody in Israel. Okay? They're hiding in a cave. Every once in a while they stick their head up, see what's going on. See if the Philistines come by, and then they dug down the cave because they're scared to death. Well, Jonathan is armor bearer. They decide, we're tired of this. We're tired of this. Now, if I say Jonathan or if I say Cruz, you get the story, okay? So, Jonathan takes his armor bearer, they go out into the middle of the field, and they say, if they ask us to come up, we win. If they tell us to stay down here, we're going up there anyway because we win. Okay? All right. So, they take off up the mountain. Now, this mountain's not, this is not just a regular mountain. It's hand over fist. I mean, you're climbing up, having to hold on and go up the mountain. And the Philistines look down there and they see these 2 boys coming up the mountain. They go down there and find out what they're doing. Well, they send a couple of guys down there. Philistines pretty tough guys. They go down there with their swords. Jonathan whacks one of them in the head, throws him down the armor bearer. The armor bearer takes his shield, whacks him. He goes rolling down the mountain. Next one comes, same thing. They start back up the mountain. They look down the mountain, the Philistines do. They said, send the whole crew down there. We got to stop this. Cruz is coming right up the mountain, and it's terrible. So up the mountain he comes, and down the mountain they go, and in between time, Jonathan is killing all these people, beating them up, and he's winning, and he goes up the mountain, and God intervenes. God sends an earthquake, and the Bible says confusion. Sounds like the Democratic Party to me, but it
Yes, the Democrats.
There's a whole bunch of confusion going on. The ground starts shaking, and they start fighting each other. And before long, somebody notices in the camp where Saul is, where is that boy? There's something going on up on that mountain. They're going to start the Philistines up, and they're going to come down here and whack us. They said, somebody go find out. So they send a runner up there, and they find out. Now, here's where you got to help me, okay? They find out that Jonathan is winning. They run run back to the camp. Okay, we're winning. Okay, you got that? Not tough. Okay, we're winning. Right? So they run back to the camp, and what do they tell Saul?
We're winning.
Yes, and Saul says, we're winning? What do you mean we're winning? And he says, yeah, we're winning.
We're winning.
There you go. And Saul says, well, come on, let's go. If
We're winning.
we ought to be a part of that. So they go up there and they find the Philistines are running, and they start chasing the Philistines, and all the time they're saying, and then they go past, this battle goes past, and all these guys are in caves and in holes in the ground, they stick their head up out of the ground. And what do they see? They see this battle going on. Somebody hollers back at them, we're winning. And they say, well, if we're winning, we ought to be with them because we're winning. They chase them clear across the plain. Everywhere they go, everybody says, we're winning. So they say, come on, let's go. Let's get our swords. Not our swords. Let's get our sticks. Get our rocks, get our plow that's been beat into nothing, and we're going to beat the Democrats because we're winning. Do you want to win? It's been said several times, and it appears that God is on our side. I believe it tonight because we're in a holy place, we're in a good place, and we're winning. Thank you.
Let it be.
You guys are great. Let me tell you, there's a good campaign, a good government, a good nation. All starts out with a good foundation. Okay? You got to have that good foundation, a good solid foundation. Our speaker tonight, who I can't introduce, because they told me I couldn't. No, they didn't. Our speaker tonight had a great foundation. A great foundation. You see, his dad is following him around and still helping him in that foundation work that he started many years ago. So tonight, would you please help me welcome Mr. Raphael Cruz.
So many thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Pleased to see you. Wow. I think the judge is ready to run for another office. And he'll win too. Well, you know, I want to tell you a story too. But before that, you know, the judge was talking about scripture. And I'm going to ask you what Sunday school teachers asked you when you were kids, to memorize a verse of scripture. Very simple verse of scripture. Ecclesiastes 10:2. And it says, the wise lean to the right. The fool leans to the left. Can you say that? The wise leans to the right, the fool leans to the left. Well, my son began leaning to the right very, very early.
Yes.
You know, when my son just turned 9 years old, I was very involved in the Reagan campaign, beginning of 1980. So all through 1980, our conversation around the dinner table was about why we had to get rid of this socialist, Marxist Jimmy Carter.
Amen. Oh, yeah.
And replace him with a Christian constitutional conservative like Ronald Reagan. So my son got a dose of conservative politics from a Judeo-Christian viewpoint every day for a whole year. And I'll tell you, I remember 9 years old, he would be just intent watching Ronald Reagan in all his debates and in all his speeches. But the real turning point came when he was 13. We introduced him to an organization called the Free Enterprise Institute. He's just turned 13. He's reading Adam Smith and von Mises and Hayek and Montesquieu and the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, Milton Friedman. And then this organization creates a group of 5 kids. My son Ted was one of the 5. They called them the Constitutional Corroborators. They hired a memory expert and had these 5 kids memorize the entire US Constitution. During the next 4 years, my son Ted gave approximately 80 half-hour speeches all across the state of Texas on free market economics and the Constitution. All 4 years of high school. Before my son left high school, he was passionate about the Constitution. He was passionate about the Declaration, about free markets, about limited government, about the rule of law. And that passion became just the focus of his entire life. And he knew that his life would be dedicated to public service. Well, let me tell you, that passion has not decreased any. As a matter of fact, that passion continues to be increasing and increasing and increasing. Why? Because he truly understands he is a servant of over 28 million bosses that he has. You, the great people of Texas. And like me, we are so proud not just to be an American and living on the greatest country on the face of the earth, but having the extra privilege to be in the greatest state within the greatest nation. And my son will say to those Democrats who think they're going to turn Texas blue, I got a message for you. We are going to see such a red tsunami. We're going to send them Unlike the Patriots in Gonzales, my son Ted will shout to those who think they can make a dent on Texas, come and take it! It is my honor and privilege to present a man that I knew when the time he was 4 years old. He was destined to be a leader. And he has surpassed all my expectations. I am so proud of him because he's a man of integrity. He's a man of honor. You know, I must have told him 2,000 times when he was growing up. You know, Ted, when I lost my freedom in Cuba, I had a place to come to. If we lose our freedoms here, where do we go? Well, my son Ted truly understands that. It's in his bones. It's in his heart. And he will not stop fighting to make sure that freedom prevails on this nation and that Texas continues to be the freest, the most prosperous state within this union. Please help me welcome my son, your Senator Ted Cruz.
Let me say, Judge Howard, if you weren't a preacher before, You've got a calling here in God's sanctuary. And if I had any sense to follow not one but two preachers, I'd just come up and say, thank you very much, all have a great evening. Let me tell you, Judge, when you were talking about battling the Philistines, it kind of reminded me of Washington.
Amen.
You know, to use a different part of the scriptures, I was looking for the jawbone of an ass. And there are more than a few of them in Washington. And then I gotta say, when my dad got cooking, I was watching back there, and I noticed just as soon as he said that we're gonna beat back the Democrats in a red tsunami, as he said it, the lights turned from blue to red. I was feeling pretty inadequate because, unlike my dad, I didn't prepare the light show beforehand. What a blessing to be back in San Angelo. What a blessing, to be with the Patriots. And it is a great time to be a Texan. Then again, every day is a great time to be a Texan.
Oh, yeah.
We are at a time of choosing. We are at a fork in the road for our nation and a fork in the road for the state of Texas.
Yes.
And I would tell you, there is no race in the country with a starker divide, with a clearer contrast than the U.S. Senate race here in the state of Texas.
That's right.
The difference between my record and that of my opponent, Congressman Beto O'Rourke, is night and day.
Francis.
So let's get into some substance. Let's get into some specifics about what this race is all about. On taxes, I've been proud to work hand in hand with the president to pass the biggest tax cut of a generation. We cut taxes on small businesses. We cut taxes on farmers and ranchers. We doubled the child tax credit from $1,000 per child per year to $2,000 per child per year. That's real money in the pockets of hard-working Texas families. We doubled the exemption from the death tax, which means that 2/3 of the farms and ranches that would have had to pay the death tax are now totally exempt. So where's Beto O'Rourke on taxes? Well, he's for them. He voted against the tax cut. He voted against making your individual tax cuts permanent. And he has been very candid in saying he wants to raise your taxes. He thinks that he knows how to spend your money better than you and your family know how to do it.
Nope.
Before he was in Congress, he was in the El Paso City Council. He voted repeatedly for higher property taxes. He even voted for something called a rain tax, which I don't even know what that is. But here in Texas, we celebrate when it rains. We don't tax you for it. On regulations, I've been proud to work hand in hand with the president to repeal the job-killing regulations that were hammering the state of Texas, that were hammering oil and gas, that were hammering farmers and ranchers and ag. And the combination of repealing job-killing regulations and cutting taxes has resulted in the economy in Texas is booming. I'm reminded years ago, I was out in West Texas, and I said, what's the difference between regulators and locusts?
Not much.
And I said, well, the thing is, you can't use pesticide on the regulators. And this old West Texas farmer, he leaned forward, he said, want to bet? So where's Beto on regulations? Well,
Regulate
he's
death.
for it. He wants to bring back the job-killing regulations of the Obama era, the regulations that hammered the state of Texas. Beto O'Rourke voted in favor of a $10 a barrel tax on every barrel of oil produced in the state of Texas. Now listen, that was a great vote if you're raising money in San Francisco. They'll pour you extra Chardonnay for that one. But that is a terrible vote if you actually care about jobs in the state of Texas. There are millions of jobs in Texas that depend either directly or indirectly on the energy industry. You've got all the folks working in energy, but every one of them, they go out and they buy cars and trucks. Well, actually, they just buy trucks. They buy houses, they get health care, they go to doctors, they give to their churches, they give to charities, they give to schools, they pay taxes which fund our police officers and our firefighters, and they generate hundreds of millions of dollars for our public universities. If you care about jobs in Texas, you want to see a thriving oil and gas industry, and you don't vote like Beto O'Rourke has to tax and regulate them today. Beto is a leading proponent of the Obama-Paris Climate Accord, which would have killed thousands of jobs across the state of Texas. I spent 45 minutes on Air Force One making the case to the president that we should pull out of the Paris deal, that it was bad for Texas and bad for jobs, and President Trump did the right thing and pulled us out. On health care, for 6 years I have been proud to lead the fight to repeal the train wreck, the disaster that is Obamacare.
Yes.
Obamacare has hurt millions of Texans. And the biggest way that it has is that it's caused health insurance premiums to skyrocket.
Yes.
I hear every day from Texans all over the state, I can't afford health insurance anymore. Now, our central objective, I believe, in repealing Obamacare should be to lower premiums. Now, how do you get lower premiums? Economics 101. If you want prices to go down, you want more choices, more competition, more options, more consumer freedom. What does Obamacare do? Fewer choices, less option, less competition, less freedom. That drives prices through the roof. So where's Beto on health care? Well, he's voted in favor of keeping Obamacare 67 times. But he's not happy with just doing that. He wants to do even more damage than that. He wants to move us to full-on socialized medicine. Put the federal government in charge of your health care and your doctor. Now let's see. Having a federal government bureaucrat decide when, how, and whether you or your family get health care.
No.
What possibly could go wrong with that?
How long do you got?
How about the Supreme Court? I have been proud to lead the fight to confirm Justice Neil Gorsuch and Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And for every one of us who cares about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, who cares about free speech and religious liberty, who cares about the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, let me say, I'm always a little nervous when I bring that up in West Texas. I appreciate all of y'all restraining from pulling out your guns and shooting them in the air. Because we'd get in trouble if we put holes in the sanctuary ceiling. So thank you for that extraordinary restraint. For every one of us who cares about the 10th Amendment right for the federal government to leave us the hell alone. It is the courts that are at the crossroads between either upholding or tearing down those rights.
Yes.
And let me say, the behavior of Senate Democrats during the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings was one of the most shameful and saddest chapters in the history of the United States Senate.
Horrible.
We saw political theater. They had no interest in fairness, no interest in truth, no interest in actually finding out what happened. No interest in due process. They simply were willing to traffic in any and every uncorroborated allegation and go into the gutter in a desperate effort to smear Judge Kavanaugh and his family. And I gotta say, I think millions of Americans turned on the TV and saw that partisan mudfest, and they said that doesn't belong in the U.S. Senate.
Exactly.
And let me say, for the record, I am not Spartacus. But you know, if Beto O'Rourke had been in the Senate, he'd have happily put on the toga and joined the Spartacus circus. How about Israel?
Yes.
For 6 years, I have been proud to be the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And today, our embassy in Israel is in Jerusalem, the once and eternal capital of Israel.
Yes. Where it belongs.
I urged the president to move our embassy to Jerusalem, and the president made the bold and courageous decision to do so. And the day our embassy opened, I was there in Jerusalem for the opening of the embassy.
Whoa.
So where's Beto on Israel? Well, bad news. He has the most anti-Israel record of any Democratic Senate nominee in the country. So let's talk specifics. 2014, Hamas is raining rockets down on Israel. Beto O'Rourke became one of only eight members of the House of Representatives to vote against funding Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. Now, the Iron Dome was saving the lives of countless men, women, and children in Israel from those Hamas rockets. Virtually every Republican voted yes. Virtually every Democrat voted yes. Nancy Pelosi voted yes. Maxine Waters voted yes. Beto O'Rourke voted no. He would not stand with Israel. So how about immigration? There is no race in the country with a starker divide on immigration than the U.S. Senate race here in Texas. As for me, I'm incredibly honored to have received the formal endorsement of the National Border Patrol Council, the union of the men and women who risk their lives keeping us safe. Now, you know, the Border Patrol Council, they typically stay out of campaigns. They made an exception in this instance where the union presidents from every sector along the Rio Grande, they all came to McAllen and formally endorsed me because they said out of all 100 senators, the one who is consistently leading the fight to build the wall, to secure the border, to stand with Border Patrol is Ted. more bad news. Not only does he oppose a wall, but he says we have too many border walls and fences already, and we need to tear down the border walls we've already got.
No.
He supports sanctuary cities, and he opposes Kate's Law. I'm the author of Kate's Law in the United States Senate. Beto voted no. Not only that, he has said he is, quote, open to. Now, these are his words, these are not mine. He is, quote, open to abolishing ICE.
No.
Now, when he got pressed on that, he doubled down. He said, well, maybe we shouldn't just abolish ICE. Maybe we should abolish the entire Department of Homeland Security. Now, listen, that is just radical. It's reckless. And it's not Texas. By the way, there's a joke that's making the rounds on Facebook. Y'all are familiar with this so-called caravan that is marching north through Mexico?
Yes.
Well, this is just a message to all the men and women in the caravan that when you get here, we have identified homes that are willing to take you in, to give you free housing, free food, free health care. And every one of these homes is helpfully self-identified with a little black and white sign that says Beto. And by the way, don't bother knocking, just kick the door in. They don't believe in walls, so just let yourself in and make yourself at home. And what's interesting about that joke is watching some leftists try to explain, well, no, that's not what we mean. Really, why is that? Wait, you mean they have to follow the laws? You mean you can't just burst your way in and intrude on someone else? You mean you can't cross illegally? You know, as Sonny Bono, remember when he was member of Congress, someone asked him, said, what's your view on illegal immigration? And he said, well, it's illegal, isn't it?
Exactly.
And Beto O'Rourke is the only Democratic Senate nominee in the country to explicitly come out for impeaching President Trump. And he has said he would vote yes today, right now, to impeach Donald Trump. So if you want to understand the stakes of this election, that lays it out crystal clear. There are two paths for America, two paths for Texas. Path number one, I'm going to call the alpha path. Path number one, we turn out common sense conservatives all across Texas, all across the country, and we hold the House and we grow our majority in the United States Senate. And then we come back in January and we cut taxes even further. We simplify the tax code even more. We repeal more job-killing regulations. We see millions of new jobs across Texas. We see wages going up. We see opportunity. We see prosperity. And we build the wall. And we confirm even more strong constitutionalist judges to the Supreme Court and the federal courts. That's the alpha path. Now there's a second path that I'm going to call the Beto path. That was a Greek joke there, sorry. The Beto path begins in January 2019 with Nancy Pelosi being sworn in as Speaker of the House. No! The day that Pelosi gets the Speaker's gavel, the House opens up impeachment proceedings on President Trump.
No.
That same day, the House opens up impeachment proceedings on Justice Brett Kavanaugh. That same day, the House launches a dozen different investigations into every federal agency, scores of subpoenas, all designed with one objective: to utterly paralyze and cripple the Trump administration, to end the Trump administration, to end all the positive and productive work we've done on reg reform, on repealing job-killing regulations, on rebuilding our military, on defeating our enemies, to all of that be consumed by a partisan bloodbath. It'd be... It'd be like Mad Max at Thunderdome. And by the way, in this telling, Beto O'Rourke plays the role of Tina Turner. Now I want to ask you, is that partisan circus, is paralyzing the federal government and ending all the progress we've made, is that good for the people of Texas? No! Then that underscores the stakes of this election. We know that the hard left is angry, that they're filled with rage and many of them hatred for the president. We know that they're flooding the state of Texas with tens of millions of dollars from Hollywood liberals and liberals all over the country. And we know that we're going to see record-setting Democratic turnout next week. Now here's the good news. This is Texas. And in Texas, there are a whole lot more conservatives than there are liberals. This election is all about turnout. And we need, in particular, serious turnout in West Texas. I love West Texas. I love the common sense values that are here. But let me tell you, every liberal in the state's going to show up. How many of y'all know what Hippie Hollow is? So Hippie Hollow is a nude beach on Lake Travis in Austin.
Oh gosh.
You ever notice that a nude beach, the wrong people always seem to go?
Oh.
I guarantee you, next Tuesday on Election Day, Hippie Hollow will be empty. Yep. As every one of those liberals will be down there voting, trying to turn Texas blue. We need West Texas to keep Texas on our core values.
Yes.
So I want to ask you to speak out for why low taxes and low regulation matters, why it matters to secure the border, why it matters to defend the Constitution. I want to ask you to contribute, to go to our website, tedcruz.org, and contribute so we have the resources to turn out common sense conservatives across the state. I want to ask you to volunteer to go and knock on doors and turn out your neighbors. And I want to ask each and every person here to vote. Yeah. How many of y'all have voted already? That is fantastic. For every hand that didn't go up, we're still in early voting right now. If you didn't raise your hand, I'm going to ask you to come out and vote tomorrow. Yeah. Don't put it off. Go and vote tomorrow. And then spend the rest of this next week between now and Election Day getting your friends, getting your family, getting your neighbors, getting your coworkers, getting your loved ones, getting everyone you know in the state of Texas to come out and vote too. I'm going to close with 2 words of encouragement. Number 1, this is the 39th town hall or rally we have done in the last 6 weeks all over the state of Texas.
Wow. Thank you.
Every single one of them, just about, at the end of it, people come up to me and they say, Ted, I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat my whole life, and I'm with you. And the reason is simple. Look, Texas for a long time has had millions of conservative Democrats, millions of moderate Democrats. And they're now seeing the national Democrats embrace radical and extreme positions. They're seeing the national Democrats go bat crap crazy. That, by the way, is a technical medical diagnosis. You find it in the medical dictionary under B. And so when Texas conservative Democrats see national Democrats like Beto O'Rourke calling for impeaching President Trump, or when they see national Democrats like Beto O'Rourke talking about abolishing ICE, those conservative and moderate Democrats, many of them are saying, you know what, there's no longer a home for me in that party.
Welcome.
And let me take a minute right now to speak to every conservative Democrat here and at home, to every moderate Democrat, to every independent, to every libertarian. Come join us. We welcome you with open arms. If you believe in low taxes, low regulations, and lots of jobs, if you want to defend the Constitution and Bill of Rights, then come be part of a common sense supermajority all across the state of Texas. And number two, we are going to win this race. Because this is Texas. And it is in our DNA, it is in our character to defend liberty. Nearly 2 centuries ago, when the citizens of Gonzales received a demand from General Santa Anna, hand over your guns and hand over the cannon that guards the city. The Texians and Gonzales responded with a battle cry that echoes through the ages. Come and take it! That is who Texas is. When liberty is threatened, we will rise to defend it. We will rise to defend the Constitution. And we will rise to defend the United States of America. Thank you, and God bless you.
Remember this. Well, that was a good rally. I really enjoyed that. Got that sign to put in my yard when I get home. Got another picture with Cruz. This was a good evening. We'll have to get another picture of the buses. See. There it is. A lot of people have taken their pictures with it. There's the other one. There's the other one. I'll try to get a selfie with me in it. Hang on.